just when I thought my tagging days were over, my boy Widdle Brudder decided he had to go and do something like that. He had to go and tag me in a video talking about five movies, five movies that really just up the feels in a good way, can get you from a bad mood to a good mood. All this stemmed from my buddy Chris D. Ciardaya. He did a video. I want to say it was the originator to this whole thing, but he did a top five movies that put him in a good mood, and then Whittle did it, and then he tagged me, so that's what I'm going to do. So these are five movies that guaranteed put me in a good mood. Now, the reason why this list was a little hard for me to do is because a lot of movies really, for me, aren't necessarily like feel-good movies, as in I can't always go from like a bad mood to a good mood while watching them. So the criteria for this was really, I just went by my gut. That's really it. I looked at almost everything I had. I said, I'm like, does this put me in a good mood when I watch it majority of the time? And the ones that I picked 9 times out of 10, or even 10 out of 10 for a few of these, I picked yes. So, movies that I like that can put me into a good mood if I'm having a crappy day. Well, one of them is a personal favorite Disney movie of mine that I remember so much to this day. The soundtrack was awesome. It was right around where Disney was really starting to try to get into what was like the cool and the in thing in the 90s. And luckily for this movie, it used a lot of musical stylings at that time without referring to like making pop culture references or really dated jokes. And that movie is Hercules. And yes, this is the VHS version because I currently don't own this on DVD. So, gosh, I'm watching. I kind of want to watch this later. I think I'm going to watch this later. Just awesome movie. What else can you say about it? Just amazing soundtrack, good voiceover. James Woods as Hades is the icing on the cake. It's awesome. Just a perfect story of a guy with humble beginnings who, throughout the whole course of the movie, learns that being a hero has nothing to do with having godlike powers, but really like the measure of your heart, what you're willing to do because it's the right thing. And that really stuck with me today. Another movie I picked because it's, again, great soundtrack, great actors, just feel good throughout the whole time. Yeah, sure, there's a spot toward the end that's a little upsetting, but ultimately it's a trick. And I had to get it. And then, of course, is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, also on VHS because I don't own this, also on DVD. Gene Wilder is Willy Wonka. Oh my gosh, all the singing numbers, the whole tour of the Chocolate Factory, the story building up to it, just everything about it is awesome. And I'm a huge fan of it. And I can listen to Pure Imagination nonstop, which is what I'm going to be marking out at Ready Player One at the end of the month. And whoever composed that little remix of it, of Pure Imagination for the trailer, they did an amazing job. They did a great song. So let's keep this going. Also, gotta have it. Clue. Tim Curry at his finest. What else can you say that you haven't already heard? Well, basically, yes, based off of the board game. A giant whodunit movie done in this amazing tongue-in-cheek comedy. Tim Curry giving it 110%. Every one of the actors playing off of each other. It's the fact that they could take a movie about people being killed and turn it into like this giant, overwhelming joke, and you kind of buy into it. That in itself makes it really fun and just enjoyable to watch. And I always get a pretty good smile going by the end of this movie, only because like you know the outcome, but the multiple endings are still awesome to watch. This one for me, it's just it was a gut call because I'm a huge fan of the franchise. The comics are good. I wasn't a fan of the sequel as much as the beginning, and I am not a fan of the movie that came out 2 years ago. And of course, I'm talking about Ghostbusters. Everything about this movie is awesome. The ghost catching sequences, the actors playing the roles, the rapport between the characters, the storyline, even the villain, everything in here, everything is humorous. Everything is awesome. And I want to say this is one of Bill Murray's more favorable performances. I don't like Bill Murray when he's like really off the kilter and kind of doing his own thing. I mean, later in his career, he got much better with it. But here, he was playing Bill Murray, but I felt like I was getting Bill Murray light, and that's kind of the Bill Murray that I like. Not to say that, you know, people who love full-blown typecasted Bill Murray is bad, but they dialed him back. We got classic one-liners in this movie, and I love it. I love watching it. It's so much fun. And probably my number one go-to movie for wanting to feel better after a bad day. The very first Back to the Future. And I do put them in sequence of 1, 2, and 3 as best to worst. And the third movie is not terrible. The biggest problem with it is that you're just... With how they ended the second movie, you really thought you were going to get something else. But with the third movie, when it finally came out, I feel like at that point, I just didn't really care. If that makes any sense. Like, going to the Old West... After the first third of the movie-ish, it really starts to pick up. But then when Michael J. Fox's character in that movie dresses up in pink and goes to the Wild West, and they dress him up as like some really dopey guy in an Old West town wearing Nikes, and just, oh my god, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But we're talking about the first movie with the iconic soundtrack, with Christopher Lloyd, with Michael J. Fox. We're talking about all that incredible acting, the insane storyline, and the Biff is the bad guy. I mean, come on, your classic stereotypical two-dimensional villain. I will say 1 to 2-dimensional. He's not totally unredeemable, but I'm gonna move my coffee here so my phone does not go into it. Everything about the movie is feel-good movie. Got to get home but got to make sure my parents still end up getting together, because he ends up going back in time and screwing that up. But everything about it is so genius and awesome, and I love it. And it always puts me into a good mood. And plus, I don't know, like, it just reeks 80s, and for some reason, like, movies around that time period, I don't know, I'm very drawn in on, like, the styles of that time. Building structure, even like logos and stuff. I just find that stuff really, really interesting. But anyway, that's going to do it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I don't think I'm going to tag anybody in this. However, if somebody does want to play along, I guess I'll kind of consider this like an open invitation. If anyone wants to do it, just have me say I tagged you. I would like to tag my brother, though. Sigrev2, if you're watching this, you're up. 5 movies that put you in a good mood, or 5 feel-good movies. But that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this video gets out in time, and until then, I'll see you later.